Okay, 4 students are asked to describe a nebula and a star. Their responses are shown below. So we're going to look for those key words. Remember nebula, we look for cloud, gas, dust, those key words that we were looking for. Over here on the star, we're going to look for light, or emitting something about light, possibly nuclear reactions. Maybe gas, could be gas there as well. So let's just see. Number 1, a collection of hot gases that sometimes produce light from nuclear reactions. Nuclear reactions are stars, produce light as stars, so that is not our good answer. Description, so we don't even need to worry about number 1. Number 1 is out. Number 2, a collection of hot gases that result from stars that have exploded. Hot gases is in there, but nothing really about exploding stars. We're looking for cloud, gas, dust, where stars are born. Let's look over here, a collection of hot gases from several nebula hot enough to cause a nuclear reaction. We're not seeing light, we don't see gas, so I don't know about that one. We're just going to hold off and see if we have a better description. Number 3, a collection of dust and gas that forms stars or results from dying stars. Okay, we see gas, dust, forming stars or dying stars. Okay, this one looks pretty good. The second description, a sphere of matter. Okay, that was actually in our word that we underlined with density and temperature. Density was in there, causing nuclear reactions at the center. Okay, I'm liking those two right now. And number 4, a collection of dust and gas found near stars. No, they're not necessarily near stars. And that produces no light. That's definitely not the answer. So by far, our best answer is going to be student number 3. All right, what does straight up or line indicate on a distance time graph or a speed time graph? Okay, a distance time graph. So this is distance, this is time. A straight up line on a distance time graph means that you are traveling the same amount of distance every period of time. So every 5 minutes, you've gone the same amount of time as you go the next minute. So you are traveling straight away from start at a constant speed. Straight away from the start at a constant speed. A speed time graph, we'll do right over here. We've got speed versus time. A straight line there means that your speed is actually increasing. So let's say you're going 10 after 1 minute, then in the next minute you are now going 20. In the next minute you are now going 30. So your speed is increasing. Speed, also called positive acceleration. Here we have our HR diagram. Let's do some dumping. We have, of course, our supergiants, which are the largest of the stars. They can be red or there are blue supergiants. Then we have the giants. Those are typically mostly your red and orange ones. Main sequence, you're looking at your yellow, yellow stars, some maybe a few orange and red, and then of course some of these white and blue ones over here that are still in their main sequence phase. And then the coolest and the hottest or the smallest of all the stars are the white dwarfs. Luminosity, of course, is over here on your y-axis, and that shows your brightness. So the brighter stars are up here at the top. The dimmest stars are down there at the bottom. And of course, our sun is right here in the middle. It's a middle main sequence star, about average temperature, about average brightness. It's actually a luminosity of 1, and it's a yellow star. Stars are categorized differently as they age. Aging is what causes them to go through this life cycle. The sun is now a main sequence star, but eventually will become a red giant and finally die out as a white dwarf. Okay, let's practice. HR diagram is shown below. Based on the diagram, which type of stars would belong to spectral class M? So we're going to look. Oh, look, spectral class is right there. Even if we did not know what that was before, we see an M right here. So this right here must be spectral class M and have the highest luminosity. We know luminosity. This time it's on the left side. Sometimes it's on the right. But either way, the higher up a star is, the brighter it is going to be. So in this case, our stars that are in spectral class M and our brightest are right there, which are the supergiants. Down here, that would be letter J. Okay, here we're talking about tides. We've got a diagram over here on your right showing spring tides. Spring tides are when we get our highest highs and lowest lows, because the earth and the moon and the sun are all in a line, and the gravitational pull is even greater. It's exaggerated, so the highs could become higher, and of course the lows become lower. Down here we have our neap tides. Our neap tides is where that's where we're going to get our lower highs and higher lows. So less extreme tides. That's another way you can think about it. So here we're going to have our less extreme tides. And then our tides are, of course, caused by gravitational pull. Here, up here we have just a little diagram. The highs always follow the moon, so wherever the moon is, that's where the high is going to be, and the lows are going to be at a right angle to the earth and the moon. Tides are caused by gravitational pull of moon and sun on the water. Yes, the sun helps contribute to the tides. Neap tides occur when the sun, moon, and earth are at right angles, first and third, and remember those are our weaker tides. Weak, the highs aren't as high, the lows aren't as low. Spring tides occur when the sun, moon, and the earth are in line, and of course those are our strong tides. We get our super highs and our super lows, or you can call them super tides. Whichever helps you remember. Remember S for strong or super. Just a little more regarding the spring and neap tides. What moon phase causes unusually high highs? Of course, that is when the sun, the moon, and the earth are in line during the full and the new moon both, and we call those the spring tides. What tides are high and high-low tides or lower-high tides? Those are your neap tides. That's when the moon and the sun and the earth are at right angles with each other, giving us during the first and third quarter. Label the diagrams below with both moon phases. Name and type of tide. Draw a picture of the moon phase in the blank circle. Draw the two high bulges in the proper sides and direction in relation to the moon. Okay, so here we have, over here on the left, we've got the moon in this position. We know it's at a right angle, so it's a quarter. Well, is it the first or third? The new moon would be here, so going around counterclockwise, that's going to be the third quarter. It is going to be the neap tides, which are the higher lows and the lower highs. I like to call them the weak tides. And of course the bulge would be here on this side and this side, but it would be a lower high and then a higher low. Remember, the bulge always follows the moon. Over here we've got the full moon, because the earth is in the middle between the sun and the moon. The earth is in the middle between the sun and the moon, which gives us our full moon, so we don't need to color anything in. During the full moon, we get our spring tides, our higher highs, and our lower lows. And so our bulge would be here, and it would be a bigger bulge than normal. I'm not very good at drawing this, but you guys can get the idea. And finally, we're going to wrap it up with some practice. The diagram below shows 4 phases of the moon as it revolves around the earth. A student builds a model based on this diagram. The student uses foam balls to represent the moon and the earth, and a flashlight to represent the sun. The student should shine the flashlight where? Well, we know this is the new moon, and we know the new moon is always between the sun and the earth, so our light should be coming from that position right there, position 4, so D is definitely our answer. Number 8, a student keeps record of the phase of the moon for 1 month. On the first night, the student observes the full moon visible in the sky. After the full moon, which phase will they observe next? Well, we know full moon. If we draw our little diagram, here is our earth. That's going to be our new moon right there. After the new moon, of course, we have the quarter moon, and then we have our full. That's our full moon right now. What follows the full moon? It is going to be a waxing moon, of course, because, a waning moon. Waning moon, because it is going to start shrinking, and it is going to start with the waning gibbous. So D would be our answer. Waning gibbous moon. It is shrinking, and it's going to be less than more than half lit, but less than full Okay, number 9. The diagram below shows the orbit of the Earth, the moon around the Earth. At which point in the moon's orbit will a person standing on Earth see a waxing crescent? It's small print. Waxing crescent from Earth. It looks like this. Well, let's just label them. This is going to be your new moon. After the new moon, we've got the waxing crescent. The waxing crescent is going to be on position 2. So there we go. We just answered that question. The diagram above, number 10, why does Earth get more energy from the sun than from all other stars in the universe combined? Well, we made it very clear. The sun says it's much larger. We know it's a medium-sized star, so it's not much larger than other stars. It is also not much hotter than other stars. It's a yellow star, which makes it not one of the hottest. It is much denser than other stars. Density would not have nothing to do with how much energy we get from it. But we know that it is much closer. It's, in fact, the closest star to us. Number 11, the HR diagram, or Hertzsprung-Russell diagram below, shows the brightness, surface temperature, and color of the stars. Which of these observations of Barnard's star is most accurate? So the first thing we're going to do is find Barnard's star. We know that it is red. We know that its temperature is going to be around 3,800 Kelvin. We know that it is a very dim star because it is very low. So let's see. Barnard's star is less bright than the sun. Okay, well, the sun is a main sequence star. It's yellow, so it's located right around there. It is less bright. Yes, it is lower than the sun. Has a surface temperature below 3,800, and it is red. Okay, well, those are looking really good. Letter B. Barnard's star is less bright than the sun. Okay, the same thing. Surface temperature above. Well, 38,000 is right here, and it is below that, so it is definitely not above 38,000. Barnard's star is brighter than the sun and has a surface. Nope, it's dimmer than the sun. Not correct. And it's brighter. Nope, it is dimmer. It is lower on the luminosity, so it is definitely lower than the sun. And finally, our last phase of the moon. Which pair of diagrams shows the moon's phase immediately before and immediately after this phase? Well, in this phase, the light is on the right side, so this is going to be a first quarter moon. Right before the first quarter, of course, we get our waxing crescent moon, and then right after, we're waxing gibbous moon. So let's see which one. So the light is definitely going to be on the right on on the correct answer. So the light is on the left on this one. So get rid of that. This one, the light is on the left, so we're going to get rid of that. Here we have the light on the left, so actually it's this one, and this one is a sliver. It is a waxing crescent. Light's on the right. This one's a waxing gibbous. The light's on the right, so C is our best answer. All right, guys, go ahead and turn in your BFF to your teacher and pick up your mini assessment. Good luck.